The letter arrived the same day Grandma's funeral ended. As everyone bickered over who would take home the antique tea set or the diamond necklace she wore every Thanksgiving, nobody even glanced my way. I slipped out quietly to the car, gripping an envelope whose creamy paper and trembling handwriting I'd recognize anywhere. Don't let them catch you with anything, Mia. People show their real side when they think you've lost it all. That was what she wrote. I always imagined my grandmother's last words would be dramatic, full of love and tears, something from a movie. But no. What she gave me was a lesson in survival and a $36 million financial empire. Margaret Whitmore, 87, was known in our family as the odd old lady who lived in a creaky wooden house up in Vermont. She was famous for her hand-knit sweaters, slippers with holes, and her daily afternoon tea. Always 3 sugar cubes, never more, never less. She never gave even a hint that once upon a time she'd been the most powerful woman in Massachusetts real estate. Even my mum, Karen Whitmore Hayes, saw her as nothing more than a grumpy, stingy, impossible old woman. When my parents split, Grandma never chipped in. She didn't pay my college tuition. She sent books for birthdays, nothing flashy. Every time I unwrapped one, my mum would shoot me that look and say, "Mia, you don't need more of that fairy tale nonsense." But the envelope wasn't a fairy tale. Inside was a thick pile of paperwork from some law firm I'd never heard of. It said I was the only heir. Not my mum, not Rick, my stepdad, not even Logan, my brother, the so-called tech genius, whose startups kept crashing while Mom still hailed him as our family saviour. Me, a 25-year-old bookstore manager at Maple Pages, barely scraping together $2,400 a month. Now suddenly, I owned 12 properties across 3 states, from Boston to Seattle. I controlled shares in 3 different investment companies, and there, sitting in a folder on my lap, was an investment portfolio quietly swelling to $36 million over decades, thanks to Grandma's steady hand. Tucked in at the top was a nearly 2-page letter in that shaky script. "Mia, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. But don't waste your tears. I need you to be stronger and smarter than anyone in this family. Don't let them catch on. Don't tell your mother, Logan, anyone. If they find out, you'll stop being family and turn into nothing but a walking vault." I sat in my car for close to an hour, paralysed. In the back of my mind, I heard Mum's complaint from the day before. "Your grandmother left us nothing but mouldy books and broken dreams." Truth was, that mouldy smell could buy out her zip code twice over. But I didn't say it. I didn't snap back, didn't show off. I chose silence. That morning was the first day I started living a double life. Nothing on the outside changed. I still poured burnt coffee every morning at Maple Pages, restocked the Murakami novels, lived in the shoebox apartment above the shop. Nobody had a clue that I owned the whole building, and the 3 houses next door. Everyone still saw struggling Mia, the one Mum always called too sweet but clueless about the real world. She'd mention it to neighbours whenever I came by, leaning into my supposed naivete and lack of ambition. I let them see what they wanted to see, the weak, gullible one. When Logan started posting his sunny beach photos with captions about a fresh start for his next startup, I gave a small smile. What he didn't know was that one of my portfolio companies had quietly scooped up a little tech brand, one that had bought out the ashes of his failed business 6 months earlier. Whenever Mum rang to whine about rising gas prices or electrical bills, always with the soft suggestion, "Mia, have you got any savings? Logan needs a new laptop. Maybe you could help him get started again." I simply said, "Not really. I'm not here for revenge. I was waiting for the right time." Grandma always said, true power isn't about having money, it's about deciding when to let the world know you do. Monday morning, I poured a latte with Maple Page's old noisy coffee machine, filled a chipped mug, and set it on the counter. The faded electric bill was pinned to the corkboard, edges curled from sunlight. I stood there with the inventory notebook, looking like nothing more than a frazzled manager on the edge of being replaced. No one would guess that up in my tiny apartment, also my not-so-secret office, I'd once signed a contract for a $2.3 million deal to snap up commercial property in Boston. That the same computer tracking inventory was also where I monitored Carter Holdings, a shell company under the Margaret Legacy Trust, a name so old-fashioned nobody batted an eye. No one guessed I managed over $25 million in assets every single day. I played the sweet fool, the invisible one at family gatherings, while Mum heaped all her attention on Logan. He'd failed 2 fundraising rounds, burned through $300,000 of Mum's money. Still, in her eyes, he was the next Steve Jobs. Logan just needs more time, she'd say. He's a visionary. Me? I'd graduated with honours in econ, juggled 3 jobs, charted my own way through college. But in their eyes, I'd stalled out at a bookstore, driving a battered old Ford. Once, at a party to celebrate Logan's 3rd big startup, Mum pulled me aside for her once-over. Mia, put on a little makeup for heaven's sake. Look at Serena, Linda's daughter. Only a secretary, but she dresses like a boss. I just smirked. That very morning, I'd approved the acquisition of our 8th commercial building downtown. Why play dress up as a CEO when I really was one? Some days, I wondered if my family simply couldn't see me, or if I was just a shadow in the story they wanted to tell. Logan always their shining centre. One Friday, my phone buzzed. Mum's name flashing, her tone extra bright. Mia, this weekend, Logan's pitching a new pet app. We're having a little party with important tech folks. Please, dress well. I pressed my lips into a tight line, thinking of the 3 tech companies I owned shares in, one of which had rejected Logan's latest pitch the week before. I'll stop by, I said, keeping my voice even. Don't be late this time. You made me look bad last time, she chided. Later that day, I sat at my laptop in the apartment above the bookstore, calmly reviewing Trident Financial's weekly report, another firm under my control. One item caught my eye. Hayes family, rising debt, poor credit, 2 new loans in the last month. They'd mortgaged their house again, and through a string of shell companies, I was the one holding that loan. I didn't threaten, I didn't say a word, I just watched. That evening, I dropped in at Mum's house. The red brick Newton home gleamed, outside anyway. The table was set with imported cheeses, Italian wine, and there was Logan, stretched on the sofa, pitching his pet food app to some would-be investors. Mum called down the stairs. Mia, why did you drive that old car here? Do you know what the neighbours must think? Probably that I'm not living off my mother, I replied quietly. She turned away, nothing more said. That suited me fine. I didn't need praise from someone who'd spent years cutting me down with pretty words. After the party, Logan asked for another $80,000 just to finish the beta. My mother cashed out a high-interest credit card to cover it. I only knew because that approval came through M&L Credit Group, my own finance company. They didn't know I was behind every strand of the net closing in on them. I just waited, patient as ever, because this game only rewards the one who acts last. Winter arrived early, biting and grey. I slipped on Mum's icy front steps and noticed the usual snow crew members were gone. She stood in the doorway, a forced smile and tired eyes betraying her. No more signature pearl necklace, just a tarnished gold chain now. The luxury sofa was replaced by a budget version, the Persian rug gone. She sighed. We've let the staff go for now. Pandemic. Hard times for everyone. I nodded, but I knew there was no fresh epidemic. Just too many overdue bills and no help left. Logan, though, still played at being a mogul. 3 weeks after Mum pawned her engagement ring to pay for electricity, he pulled up in a new Tesla Model X, strutting in with his designer shades like he owned not just the bookstore, but the world. You're still here? Logan smirked, glancing around. This place smells ancient. Must be therapeutic, yeah? I smiled. Very therapeutic. How's the cat food app going? He laughed. Moving up. I'm working with an AI team now. $1 billion market. I'm close to raising $45 million. That VC fund he bragged about, Larchmont Ventures, had just rejected his proposal as a non-starter. I knew because I controlled the firm. A few weeks later, Mum called late at night, voice low and urgent. Mia, do you have a bit of money? Just a few thousand. She made up a story about a broken water heater, but I'd just seen her overdue cards and the country club letter revoking her privileges. I asked gently, Mum, is the club that important? She hesitated, then broke. I just don't want to lose face. My friends wonder why I'm not there. Logan's close to launching his new platform. It'll be fine, just a little more time. But I knew. It would never be fine. They'd refinance the house again through Willow Fund LLC, another of my creations. My father had started quietly selling company stock to cover their tracks. Mum had parted with her cherished Chanel bags to pay for the Tesla. Ironically, a car even Logan didn't know was registered under her name. What hurt the most wasn't their struggle, but the way they clung to delusions, still believing in Logan, still blind to me. One Tuesday night, I was upstairs balancing inventory when the doorbell rang. There was Mum, lips pale, hands shaking as she handed over a foreclosure notice. From Harborstone Financial, a subsidiary of Hawthorne Holdings, another shell I invented. She whispered, "The house is about to be repossessed. I need your help. I can't tell Logan." I read the envelope, feeling nothing, just a hollow ache. Logan's on the verge of his big breakthrough, isn't he? I asked quietly. She just looked down. I just need your help this once. I nodded. Go home. I'll see what I can do. She left, shoulders sagging. I opened my laptop, found my lawyer's email. Ready to send foreclosure as scheduled. My hand hovered on the mouse. For the first time since childhood, dread gripped me. I didn't hate my family. I wouldn't offer them protection anymore either. 3 days later, Mum stormed into the bookstore. No warning, eyes swollen, mascara streaked. What's wrong, Mum? I asked, steady. She pulled out the paperwork and the latest foreclosure letter. They say if we don't pay up in 5 days, we'll lose the house. I have nothing left. I need your help. I took a breath, counted my words. Mum, I work at a bookstore. I make $2,400 a month. After rent and food, I opened my drawer, counted my savings. I have $3,000. Do you need it all? She stared, shocked, then angry. You can't be this selfish. This is your home too. If we lose it, what will happen? I met her eyes. Did you think of that when you refinanced it for Logan's Rolex? She froze. He needs to look good for investors. He has a future. He's our last hope. And me, Mum? What am I? Just the backup when you're desperate. My voice stayed calm, but my hands shook under the counter. I paid for my own college, remember? 3 part-time jobs for 4 years, because you said there was no money after Logan. She looked at me, lost. I gently pushed back the stack of bills and said, I'm sorry, that's all I have. That night Dad called, no small talk, just orders. Mia, your mum says you refuse to help. Do you understand this family is on the brink? I looked out at the city lights from my 39th floor office. I'm sorry, Dad, I'm just a bookstore clerk. Don't use that tone. You're our daughter. You have to help. I hesitated. What about Logan? He's prepping for funding again, right? My father's reply was the same as always. The world's tough on young men. Logan has to keep up appearances. I let out a quiet laugh. And women? Silence. Then, heavy as a stone, if you won't help, you're not my daughter anymore. I hung up quietly, no tears. The next day brought a report from my attorney. Every Hayes family liability now belonged to Mia Whitmore Holdings, fully under my control. It was time. I texted my lawyer. Begin process. Deadline. 10 days. Back at Maple Pages, I made mint tea and watched sunlight cut across the empty store, ledgers stacked at my elbow. They still thought I had nothing, and I let them think it for 3 years. But that was over. The game had changed. I held the cards now. That morning was cold and grey, exactly the kind of morning where everything feels inevitable. I pulled up to the Suffolk County Courthouse in a sleek black Mercedes, wearing a light brown trench coat and a neat bun. My makeup was subtle, deliberate, a far cry from poor Mia at the bookstore. I arrived early, not to prepare documents. Those had been ready for days. No, I came to watch, to witness the moment the Hayes family would first crack under the truth. At exactly 8:41 a.m., Logan's scratched-up silver Tesla rolled into the lot. My parents climbed out, straightening their coats, faces set but weary. Mum's eyes were bloodshot. Dad's shoulders slumped as if carrying the weight of the whole world. Logan, sunglasses on, dragged a beat-up briefcase but didn't glance their way. They didn't notice me, of course. To them, I was still the forgotten girl behind the counter, far from any real power. Courtroom 6 was packed, part media buzz over the Hayes name, once a respected northeastern real estate brand, and part curious financiers eyeing the downfall's orchestrator. Judge Wanda Ellison walked in, known for her no-nonsense approach to high society bankruptcies. She hammered the gavel. Civil bankruptcy hearing number 42928. Defendants. The Hayes family. She looked at the file, then up. Primary creditor, please confirm your presence. I stood, voice clear. Amia Whitmore, legal representative of Whitmore Holdings, the company that holds the defendants' outstanding debts totaling $12.7 million. A hush fell over the room. Dad whipped around, Mum's mouth dropped open, and Logan dropped his phone. Mia, Mum whispered, pale as a ghost. Don't you work at a bookstore? Dad stammered. I faced them with a calm that made the room uneasy. I do. I love books, but that's not all I am. The judge nodded. Please proceed. I opened my briefcase and laid out the documents. Mortgage refinancing 3 times in 3 years, 6 large consumer loans, a web of overlapping credit card debts, each now owned by Whitmore Holdings, under my control. Mom broke down in sobs. Mia, how could you do this? You're my daughter. I met her gaze. You told me I wasn't your daughter anymore when I refused to give you my last $3,000. Remember that? The courtroom went silent. I didn't come here to destroy anyone. I came to offer a chance. I slid another folder toward their lawyer. A debt restructuring proposal. If accepted, all debts will remain. No further collection. Subject to 3 mandatory conditions. The judge inclined her head for me to continue. First, Logan Hayes will have all access to credit accounts revoked. No startups, no raising money, no changing the world. His first job is ready. Sales associate at Pet King Pet Store in Roxbury at $15 an hour. Logan shot up livid. You can't do that. I'm a founder. I'm a burden, I interrupted cold. It's time you learned what an honest hour of work means. Judge Ellison banged the gavel. Proceed, Miss Whitmore. I continued. Second, Mr. and Mrs. Hayes must enroll in a 12-month financial counselling program with weekly spending reports and a $2,500 monthly budget. Dad clenched his jaw. Mom wept silently. The third condition, I said slowly, the family must sell the Newton mansion within 45 days. I have purchased a smaller house in Worcester. 3 bedrooms, a loft, a modest backyard with a plum tree. It's enough. The air thickened. The judge scanned the papers. This is the most generous offer I've seen. Counsel for defendants, does your client accept? Whispered consultation. Then a reluctant nod. Their faces resembled men swallowing ice. We accept. I stood, a slight smile forming, not from triumph, but because, finally, the truth was out. As I headed away, footsteps pounded behind me. Mom's voice cracked. Mia, why? I stopped, eyes steady. Because you need to understand, I'm not the bookstore girl you thought. I'm the last person you should have underestimated. An hour after the hearing, I stood on the courthouse steps. The wind tugged at my coat, like tearing away the last page of a chapter. Logan slumped on a bench, drained. Mum's perfect hair dishevelled, clutching her canvas bag. Dad said nothing, eyes on the ground, sweat dampening his brow. No one dared approach me. No words spoken. Pride no longer a currency. 3 days later, I got a confirmation email from the dealership. Logan's pearly white Porsche Taycan had been repossessed. Per my instructions, a 2015 ash grey Toyota Corolla arrived at our new Worcester address. No bells or whistles, just reliable transportation, if he chose to go. His text came in at 2:14 a.m. "You've ruined my life." I didn't respond. His life wasn't wrecked by me, but by the undeserved privileges he'd never earned. The mansion in Newton went on sale, 20% below market. I bought it quietly through an obscure Whitmore branch. No press, no fanfare, just a private sale. I didn't need anyone to know. I just needed them to know. Mum called once more before the move, her voice stripped of bitterness. "Mia, why Worcester?" I smiled softly. "Because it's quiet, affordable." She hesitated. "I don't belong anywhere like that." I paused. "I used to think the same when you said I wasn't classy enough for the Blackwell family table." Silence, then a whisper. "I'm sorry. I didn't know if it was true or desperation." Didn't matter. "I hope for the first time you live without illusions. No lies." That week, I travelled to New York. Not to shop, but to meet the designer behind Elysian, the label that made the frilly green dress Mum forced me to wear at Logan's last honour party. I shook his hand, handing over the acquisition folder. Whitmore Holdings now owned Elysian. The green dress line was discontinued immediately. Later, I called Mum. "That dress, the one you made me wear, it's gone," she asked sharp. "Did you do this to get back at me?" "No. To end an era where I endured humiliation disguised as family love." She said nothing. Over the following months, reports came in. Financial counselling sessions were being attended. Mum's the first to arrive, Dad taking notes in a ledger. Logan had kept his retail job for 7 weeks straight. No misses. For once, he was living his own life. One Saturday, I returned to Maple Pages, not as an employee, but the owner. I placed a photo of Grandma Margaret and me in the centre of the old wooden table. I sat back with a cup of tea and closed my eyes. No anger, only a calm peace. Grandma once said, "Strength isn't revenge, it's knowing when to let go." I finally got it. Spring touched Boston gently 3 months after the court hearing. Flowers bloomed along Commonwealth Avenue, but real change was unfolding quietly, miles away in Worcester. From my office on the 39th floor of Whitmore Executive Tower, I scanned the latest financial oversight report on the Hayes family. Stable finances, spending under the set limits, commitments kept. I called the program manager at Franklin Center. "Mrs. Hayes is first every morning, takes notes diligently. Mr. Hayes is quiet, but brings his ledger every session." Even Logan held his job at Pet King Roxbury for nearly 2 months without missing shifts. The store manager's email noted he seemed subdued but steady. No complaints, just getting the work done. The arrogant heir who once flaunted Teslas and billion-dollar dreams was gone. That afternoon, I skipped the executive meeting. I asked Sarah to bring me an old wooden box, worn and locked with a bronze clasp darkened by time. Inside was a faded photo. Grandma Margaret and me at the bookstore, me around 14, standing in front of the weathered Maple Pages shop. She smiled, her hand on my shoulder, eyes full of quiet strength. I carried that photo through 3 apartments, 2 states, and countless moments when I wanted to throw it away. But I never did. I set it beside my laptop and folders and whispered a thank you to Grandma, who taught me. She'd once said, "Don't fear when people look down on you. It's only because they don't realise how easily you could change the world. Later that weekend, I drove to Worcester, staying quiet. I parked a block away and walked. The modest white house with the plum tree stood just as I'd arranged. No glitter, no grand gates, just a real home. Dad cleaned windows, sans manager's tie or suit. Mum mowed the lawn, gloves on, hair tied back. They were trying, really trying. I didn't interrupt. I watched from a distance, letting them breathe. That night in Boston, I journaled my thoughts. Real strength lies not in money itself, but in knowing when to reveal it. Grandma was right. I didn't need to punish them. I gave truth space to work. Whether they rebuilt or fell apart was their choice. Back at Maple Pages, the old bookstore still stood, unchanged. I didn't renovate. I never hung a big corporate sign. It was where I came from, a living memory. Sarah texted me, "Are you sure you want to keep this store? It doesn't make money." I answered, "It's not about profit. It's about remembering where I started." One afternoon, a teen around 15 browsed the shelves, asking about books on investing. "Do you think regular people can get rich?" he asked. I smiled, stooped down, and handed him The Millionaire Next Door. They can, and they should. He paid with crumpled bills, unaware the woman behind the counter was one of the richest, most discreet CEOs in Massachusetts. I watched him leave, thinking, let them think you're nothing. Then, when it's time, show them everything. 5 years later, I stood in the grand Harvard Business School hall, crystal chandeliers reflecting over polished wood floors. In my hand was a mic. Before me, hundreds of students, hopeful young faces eager to hear my story. I began with Grandma's words whispered the day I left Vermont at 18. When you're underestimated, don't argue. Just prove it with your results. The room fell silent. I shared how I worked at the bookstore, quietly managing a multi-million-dollar empire to see who loved me for me, not for what I carried in my pocket. I spoke of family, not with bitterness, but with the calm of someone who'd survived, grown, and healed. I told how I took charge of their debts, not to destroy, but to offer a second chance. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing not to live trapped by the past. Afterward, a young woman approached me, shy and teary. She said her mother called her a failure for not studying law, and she felt invisible. I saw myself in her, short hair, hopeful eyes. I took her hand and said, "You're not invisible. You're just waiting for your moment. And when it comes, don't apologize for shining." My parents' house in Worcester is different now. Not grand, but warm. I visit them sometimes, not out of duty, but choice. Mom volunteers at the local church. Dad, once a corporate man, found peace growing organic vegetables, often sending me fresh lettuce with notes, "Homegrown, truly organic." Logan works at a non-profit supporting youth startups. One evening, he said, "I thought money was power. Now I know it's just a tool. It's who holds it that matters." I nodded, thinking how long it took me to see that. Maple Pages is still open, with a small cafe tucked in the back corner and a free bookshelf for anyone who needs a book more than I do. I'm no longer just the girl behind the counter. I'm Mia Whitmore, the one once unseen, overlooked, buried under expectations. Now I hold my own light. Sometimes late at night when the city quiets down, I sit on my balcony, sip mint tea and whisper thanks. Thanks for not believing in me. Thanks for underestimating me. Because of that, I learned to believe in myself, without anyone's permission. If you've ever been told you're not enough, remember this. Your silence today might just be tomorrow's loudest roar. Be patient, your moment will come. What do you think of Mia's journey? How about the family's transformation? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more heartfelt stories about life, family, and true strength.